Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. It's Mondays like these where I remember the last couple of recap screens, and I say to myself, man, we did really well. We kind of dominated. And then we see what we did on the Friday/Sunday night show. I mean, there's some green check marks in here, but by my count, this is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'm counting it real quick, 4-9 or 4-9-1. I got to push on that Titans bet, which of course should have been a win. But this is not the recap screen. We want to see, we're going to try to do better. I see everybody in the chat. Loving all that. Hit the like button if you can. Again, we had come off, I think, 2 or 3 really good days in a row. So some of these days are going to hit where we just have a lot of X's. But let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show. It's Buckets. It's Larry Hartstein. We got soccer. We got football. We got some SportsLine picks, including a Tom Casale special in college basketball, also a SportsLine NBA pick. Buckets, how you doing, sir?
I am doing, I guess, as good as you can be after missing your last 3 early edge picks, but I'm excited to bounce back here. We have some really good football this afternoon, and I'm expecting some checks tomorrow morning.
All right, football. By football, Larry, he means soccer. And by also football, there's some football news that just broke, I don't know, like literally maybe 2 minutes ago. Why don't you break it for us?
Yeah, I was expecting to wake up this morning and see 3 or 4 head coaches fired. And early this morning, it was only Luke Getsy, the OC for the Raiders. But then we just got word Dennis Allen gets fired. This was long overdue. You can't lose to the Panthers in a situation where no team has ever lost before. When you outgain them by that much, win the turnover battle by that much. No team in the Super Bowl era had ever lost a game with those counting stats. So this was long overdue, and it makes me want to bet the Saints +3 at home next week against the Falcons. I think that could be a good spot for a bounce back. But you could also have fired Matt Eberflus yesterday, and you could have fired Doug Peterson. And what about Mike McCarthy with the fake punt inside his own territory? There's so many bad situations. And I don't like to pile on just for piling on, but there's so many egregious coaching jobs going on right now. The one thing that I do want to highlight, though, on the positive side, Sia, is the Detroit Lions and what Jared Goff has done. He's thrown 11 touchdown passes and 17 incomplete passes over the last 5 weeks. It's simply incredible, setting up a great showdown in Houston with Nico Collins expected to be back on Sunday Night Football. The Texans could be a live dog. They're getting 4 or more.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I also think that Saints line flipping, I mean, because the look ahead, I think, the Saints were favored in that game. It's +3 with the coaching change. I do like that play quite a bit. Because I don't know, Larry, I don't know that a lot of people really loved Dennis Allen as a football coach. I saw him putting down players all the time. It just seems like this is the type of change that could actually spur that ongoing narrative in terms of the new coach bump.
Yeah, and very defensive, a good defensive coordinator, a good defensive mind, terrible head coach. He always wanted to win the game 17-13, 17-16, terrible against the spread, especially as a favorite, which we saw yesterday, which knocked out 20 more people in Circa Survivor. So now you're down, which started with almost 15,000 entries. You're down to about 170 right now in Survivor.
And I'll say this, Buckets, before we get to your soccer picks. I'm not in neither is Larry, in the market of saying like, hey, fire this guy, fire this person, because it's not that's not a great look. But with that said, I mean, I feel like Mike McCarthy probably should have been let go like a long time ago by Jerry Jones and company, or his son, whoever's actually running that show. As far as Matt Eberflus, I just want to throw it out here. Sniper's not on the show right now, so I feel like I can say this. You might have a Caleb Williams problem. I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, maybe he's not as good as people thought he was going to be. Certainly has all the weapons, a pretty good defense. Shouldn't be losing games like they're losing. I don't know that I'd put that entirely on Caleb or Matt Eberflus, but a lot of coaching moves to come, Larry, I suspect. All right, Buckets. It looks to me like we've got 3 soccer plays today. Then we're going to get into our SportsLine picks. Then we're going to get into a couple of NFL picks for Monday Night Football. Buckets, lead us off.
Don't worry, Sia. I loaded up on some very tricky teams to pronounce, so let's have some fun with this one. We are starting in the Turkish Super League. When we talk about the Turkish Super League, we talk about the giants of this league. We talk about the Fenerbahçes, the Galatasarays, the Trabzonspors, and the Samsunspor. Okay, this is a new one. A team that was promoted just 2 seasons ago is currently third in the Super League right now. 10 matches played, 20 goals scored, including scoring 2 against Fenerbahce. This Samsunspor team is doing something very, very special, and the books have not caught up to them. Take Samsunspor over 1.5 team total at -130. It's a little bit of juice, but this is the same Samsunspor team that has done this now in their last 4 domestic matches straight. Then from Turkey to Poland, we've got a great matchup between GKS Katowice taking on Korona Kielce, and we're taking the classic here. Both teams to score at -110. This is, again, I'm looking at some smaller leagues here because I want check marks, and I believe that the books aren't really putting enough value and not putting a close enough eye on some of these lines here. Katowice has played 13 matches. They've scored 19 times and conceded a whopping 17. Korona Kielce is a bit tricky because they do tend to struggle to score, only 10 goals scored, but they have the highest both teams to score hit rate when playing on the road currently in Poland here. I love BTTS at -110. Third, final, and easiest to pronounce play here. We're going to the EPL, the English Premier League. Sia, I had to give you one easy one here. Fulham versus Brentford. I did a SportsLine article for this matchup where I gave out 4 picks for this play, but I'm going to share one of my favorites here for all of you. But don't forget to check out the other ones there because there's a lot of value to be had when we have 2 of the worst defensive units in the Prem. Both teams to score in over 2.5 goals as a same game parlay is currently priced at +110. And I love this bet because both of these teams are capable of covering the over by themselves. I think this will be a shootout. I wouldn't be shocked if we got a 2-2, 2-3, 3-2 kind of matchup here, but BTTS at over 2.5 whenever you see Fulham play right now is something you just got to bet, Sia.
Buckets, the joke's on you because when we do the recap screen, I'm just going to make you do more work and pronounce all 3 of these names, even though the third one is actually even the first one. I think the second one is where I'm going to have some real issues. Big Cheesy agrees. He says, see to mispronounce these soccer teams is -5,000. Go ahead, Buckets.
I will say this, Sia. You know, I only do this maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year where I kind of shoot my shot in advance here. I am fully expecting to be on the show tomorrow morning and to see 3 check marks by my name. I really, really love the slate today.
Wow, I'd love to hear that. By the way, there's some pushback from James about my Caleb Williams criticism. I'm not necessarily saying he's a bad quarterback. James makes a good point. He says it's the offensive line and most importantly, the OC. I don't know about that OC part maybe, but offensive line, certainly a problem. There's people, because Larry, you brought up the Jaguars. There's people that are talking about Trevor Lawrence. I was the one when Trevor was in college saying this guy was far from generational. And I got people looking at me like you don't know ball. So, I mean, here we are. I mean, he's really great when they're down like 30 points. Other than that, I don't know that I'd want Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback. But I love all the commentary. Larry, did you see anything in the chat you wanted to respond to before we get to the SportsLine pick?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the sentiment there. And I agree with you about Trevor Lawrence, but that was such a fluky cover for the Jags. They were out of the game 22-0, fluky fumble return. Eagles do everything they can to not cover. And yes, I'm bitter about that. Like I'm sure you're bitter about, the Tennessee Titans allowing that play to go on for 17 seconds until Drake May, throws a miracle touchdown to wreck that cover. But yeah, there's a lot of bad situations right now.
Yeah, I had 2 picks going yesterday. Malik Neighbors was 8 yards away from hitting, but didn't get a target in the first quarter. And then the Titans not covering is actually like kind of shocking to me. They dominated that game. All right, let's talk about maybe some domination in the college basketball realm. We're going to start seeing Tom Casale on this show, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to start seeing him in a lot of different places, including all over SportsLine. He's got a pick today in the gigantic matchup between, of course, Santa Clara and St. Louis. This is at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, so get this bet in sooner rather than later. We're going Santa Clara money line at -110. And by we, I mean Tom Casale /we. Santa Clara money line -120 or -110 is the play from Tom Casale. And then our next pick, we're going Spurs Clippers under 218.5 points at -110. This is a 10:30 Eastern Standard Time game. Again, Spurs Clippers under 218.5 at -110. Those are our 2 SportsLine plays. All right, we got to get to some NFL plays. Larry, your official pick, my official pick. We're going to make all these official picks at BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wage of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right, well, let's finally get to those picks right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Dominic Walton says, as a Seahawks fan, Shane Waldron knows how to not run a functional offense. I got to say, the Geno Smith mistakes were pretty bad. I think, I thought the Rams were going to win that game going into it. They ended up winning the game, but if Geno doesn't make some of those mistakes, I mean, it's very likely the Seahawks win that game. Larry, your response?
Yeah, he needs DK Metcalf back. I think without him, he's forcing way too many things. Some crazy interceptions and miscues down near the goal line, which we've seen it the last few weeks.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Buckets, and it's from our guy, Brad Betts. This is from a few minutes ago. He says, Buckets, thoughts on the Danish match Copenhagen versus Silkeborg today? Copenhagen scored 42 out of 45. Silkeborg scored 20 straight competitive matches. I'm sure I mispronounced that.
Well, it sounds like you did the research for me there. Sounds like both teams to score over 2.5 or either team on the team total. It makes a lot of sense. The Danish league is very, very goal heavy. And every time you see Copenhagen play, there's nothing to do but bet overs. Sia, can I add something real quick here?
Yeah.
Really confused me on the SportsLine play because Santa Clara is also a Portuguese team playing today, and their money line is plus 145. If you want to do a Santa Clara parlay, take both Santa Clara money lines. That's plus 380.
That's amazing. I kind of want to do that just to have that bet in there. I want to be able to look at the ticket with two Santa Claras. All right. Can you name, Buckets, the famous NBA Hall of Famer that played at Santa Clara?
Kevin Garnett.
That's not even a bad guess, to be honest with you. Well, Garnett didn't go to college. He was one of the few that went straight from high school to the NBA. In the chat, can you name who Larry, do you know who I'm talking about without saying it?
I do.
Okay. So in the chat, if you know it, oh, there we go. Nathan Pike. That was quick. Nathan Pike, Steve Nash, Kirk Schroyer, Steve Nash, Buckets. The answer is Steve Nash. All right, here's my play for tonight. Oh, John Parker's in the chat. A big hello to John Parker and all of you. Rashawn Jones, Will Drummond. Thanks for being in here. Lee Brown. Lee Brown, you're great. You used to drop the presidential trivia on us, and now you know the Steve Nash trivia too. Jack of all trades for sure. Hit the like button if you could. All right, speaking of Jack of all trades, Larry, this might be a controversial play to some people. It even is to me because I haven't taken a combo. I've been really good in the prop department all year, but one thing I haven't done yet is taken a combo line on a running back just because I'd rather just focus on the rush attempts or longest rush under or just the rush yards. But with Rachaad White, I'm playing a little game here. I'm taking his over 55.5 rushing and receiving yards. Now, just in case you want to isolate this, I want everybody to know that the receiving yards total is around 24.5. And you can take that. I do think that's the better part of these two elements here. But part of the reason I'm taking the rushing is because he's been like moderately efficient over the last couple of games in the rushing department. Granted, those aren't against Kansas City type rush defenses, but because Bucky Irving has that toe injury, barely practiced all week, I do think there's a possibility that we could see Rachaad White with a couple of more carries. And even on inefficiency, if he were to average like 3.5 yards per carry on his projected 7 or 8 carries, he could still get to like close to 30 yards rushing and still only need 25, 23 yards in the receiving department. Either way, I do think he's going to get some rushes, and I do think he's going to be a huge part of this receiving game because they are just down so many receivers. Kansas City is going to bring pressure. Baker's going to have to get it out quick. Of course, Cade Otton's going to have to be there, but Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, by the way, he'll be on the field too. But I think Rachaad White is going to be the beneficiary of a lot of those quick looks from Baker Mayfield. And I do think this play protects against all kinds of game scripts. If they're in this game, I see Rachaad White getting some carries. If they're out of this game, I see Rachaad White getting some reception. So I'm hoping he gets some carries early to get that rushing line part of it early. But either way, I like his over 55.5 rushing and receiving yards at minus 115. All right, Larry, you're going to the other side of the ball. I have a play that I think correlates pretty well with this play, and I'll wait to give it out. Talk to me about DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins only had 2 days with the Chiefs before his first game, and he still got 3 targets and made 2 catches. And everything you're reading about it, and I don't think they're just blowing smoke. I believe Andy Reid and Mahomes with what they're saying about how prepared he is, how dedicated he is. Obviously, this is a great chance for him to be a major player in a Super Bowl winning team and kind of secure his legacy. So he's totally rejuvenated, totally locked in. We know they don't have Rashee Rice. We know they don't have Hollywood Brown. They also don't have Juju Smith-Schuster. They also don't have Sky Moore. I'm not sure if that's even relevant, but that's another name on the depth chart. The only receivers he's competing with from the wide receiver room are Xavier Worthy and Watson and McCole Hardman. So I love DeAndre Hopkins to get at least 4 grabs tonight. They have been talking him up. They are telling us that he is going to be more involved. And I think with the extra day, with all that practice time, that he's going to get at least 4 catches. It's a great matchup because the Bucs defense is so vulnerable. 3rd most passing yards allowed. Not sure the status of Antoine Winfield, but whether he goes or not, this is a team that you can pass on. This is a team that you can run on. I just love DeAndre Hopkins to be heavily involved tonight, over 3.5 grabs. And I do have another play on the site for this game involving Cade Otton.
Oh, very interesting. So if you want that play, and I'll talk about the play that I think, actually I have 2 plays that I think are somewhat correlated with this D-Hop prop. I'll give them out in a second. But if you want all the SportsLine plays on this game, all of Larry's plays, the Cade Otton play, go to sportsline.com/join. If you type in the promo code WINNERS, WINNERS, that's winners, you get 60% off the annual plan. Go to sportsline.com/join or scan that QR code. It'll take you right there. Again, not just a pick site, all kinds of simulations, model picks, articles, Buckets and company have articles when it comes to the soccer picks. Some of my golf articles show up on there, although this time of year, not running the golf articles. We'll wait till January for that. But we have so much stuff, DFS included, on the SportsLine site. So Larry, let me bounce a couple of things off of you. Buckets, ultimately, I'm going to go to you to see if there's another soccer pick in the chat for you to address. But the DeAndre Hopkins prop, so I kind of like, you have his over 3.5 receptions. I kind of like Xavier Worthy's under 3.5 receptions, which you can get at around -130. It's certainly juiced to the under. I also think you can kind of play a game with Xavier Worthy where you kind of ladder his receiving yards up because maybe he gets that one big catch, but you still take his under. If your book allows you to do that, you still take his under 3.5 receptions because I could see him, getting 2 catches for potentially 60 yards or something like that, or 70 yards. But I don't think we get Xavier Worthy to 4 catches. And I think that's partly because of D-Hop. So I want your response to that. But I also want your response to this. I know Patrick Mahomes hasn't been good this year, but doesn't this seem like the game where maybe he throws for 2 touchdowns? And against this Tampa defense, and over 1.5 is like -120. You're getting a pretty good number. I know he hasn't been doing it that much this season, but it just seems like against this defense on a national spotlight game, you could see Kelsey and D-Hop, maybe somebody else with a touchdown catch.
Yeah, I like both of those looks, especially because Worthy's going to get touches in the running game, with the end arounds as well. And Mahomes, even though he has more interceptions than touchdowns, so the implication is he's having a terrible season. But if you look at EPA, he's actually not. I mean, the interceptions have been bad, but aside from that, he's playing tremendous football, making all the plays he needs to make. So I like both of those looks. I also like Noah Gray as a look to catch a touchdown. That guy's been so reliable. And with all the attention on Kelsey and now on D-Hop, he should be able to get loose a couple of times.
Brian Smith says Hopkins' first touchdown score. I'm not sure what that number is. It's probably close to our primetime show. We don't take less than +1,000. He's probably right on that line, but something to consider there. We'll have the primetime show tonight at 7:15. Let's see. David Talk says Saints are firing their coach. Yeah, Larry reported that from earlier reports earlier in this show. Buckets, any soccer plays?
Lazio over 1.5 team total. Como, both teams to score. Santa Clara, draw no bet. Parma over 1.5 team total. Those were 4 separate questions in the chat. Rattled off 4 extra leans for those who want to follow.
Wow. I was not expecting that. That was, man, you were at the ready. So you're going to have to be at the ready when we get to this recap screen as well. All right, let's do that right now. Let's see what our picks are today. I've got Rachaad White over 55.5 rushing and receiving yards at -115. Same game. DeAndre Hopkins over 3.5 receptions at -135 from Larry. I'll note that I do have a lean on Mahomes over 1.5 touchdown passes, and Xavier Worthy's under 3.5 receptions. SportsLine picks Santa Clara money line -110, Spurs Clippers under 218.5 at -110. Don't forget that Santa Clara game is at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And buckets, your turn.
See if this helps. My Polish friend is watching the show, and he texted me just saying wrong when I talked about the Katowice game. So Samson's board team total over 1.5. Katowice versus Corona, both teams to score, and Fulham Brentford, both teams to score, and over 2.5.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks to your Polish friend as well. Big Cheesy says, good luck today, fam. Liddy says, good luck, everybody. Have a great day. Chris Kish says, thanks for the show. See you all tonight. Of course, that's prime time tonight. We've got our early edge prime time for this game that we've been talking about, Kansas City and Tampa. And we'll have some probably important injury news as well for that game, considering guys like Antoine Winfield, Bucky Irving. I know people were asking about him. Those questions can be answered tonight on early edge prime time. Everybody, thanks for being in here. We need a bounce back from the Friday and Sunday slate. Had a good week last week overall, but always looking to do better, especially coming off a bad Friday and Sunday. But you all stayed positive. Absolutely appreciate every single one of you. Appreciate Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 9s and 10s. Appreciate Buckets. Appreciate Larry Hartstein. And again, all of you in the chat. We'll see you tonight for Early Edge Primetime. See you here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. This is the Early Edge. I'm the Counselor of Cash, and we rest our case.